We're here with Michael Martin Murphey, and we'd like to talk a little bit today about Cowboy Christmas, which is something real close to my heart, and some other things that Michael's doing. Michael, why don't you tell us about your new album?
Well, the new album, there's actually two albums coming out. One is a Cowboy Christmas package called the Cowboy Christmas Gift Set, which is a DVD and a CD together, a package together of traditional Christmas carols and a DVD of our Cowboy Christmas show. And that comes out and will be out just in the next few weeks. But the other album is called Heartland Cowboy, and it was sparked by a television show I got involved with on public broadcasting called America's Heartland. They asked me to write a theme song for it, and they said, our show is about American agriculture and rural lifestyle and rural communities today. It's not a nostalgic look back. This is not the History Channel. This is about now. People who are living on ranches and farms and making a living doing it, and people who are living in rural areas. I wrote this song for them, the America's Heartland theme called Close to the Land. And then I started thinking, this wouldn't be a bad theme for Cowboy Songs Volume 5. It would be, and it is, my 5th Cowboy Songs album that I've put out. I had put out 4, and then a gap went by 3 or 4 years where I just didn't know quite what direction I was going to take Cowboy 5. Then it occurred to me, well, I'm a cowboy living today, too, and I live on a ranch, and most of my friends are ranchers, and we show horses, and we buy and sell cattle on a small scale, and all my kids at home are cowgirls, and my wife is a cowgirl. So I decided I was just going to write about that, and it turned out to be a really good project. It's different. It's about issues that affect ranchers today, from eminent domain, taking away ranchers' land, to just the joy of being out there in a rural setting. I have a song on there called When the Wheel Comes Around, and the lyrics start off, there's a girl that I know who lives out on the farm. She wakes up with the sun and runs out to the barn. Before the breaking of dawn, she's out there and gone, sitting around in the barn with that old radio on. That's about my 14-year-old daughter at home. She does get up in the dark every single day, up even in Wisconsin in the wintertime. She puts on her Carhartt clothes, and she runs out to that barn, and if she finishes her chores, she just sits out there and listens to the radio till it's time to go to school. She just is an outdoor kid, as my other 2 daughters are too, but she's the extreme version of that. And the song is just about the seasons that we go through as a family and the work that we do together. What happens in the spring, what happens in the fall. And even though I've lived my whole life as an entertainer, if I didn't have that as a basis of my life and the life of my family, I really think I'd go crazy. I don't want to live in a big mansion in Nashville or in Los Angeles. I don't want to meet with music executives for lunch every day the rest of my life, like many of my friends do who live in those places. And with all due respect to those places, if you like a city lifestyle, Nashville is a great place. But I've always lived in the country throughout my whole career. When I sing country music, I feel like it should be from the country, about somebody who has personal experience with that. That's why they called it country music in the first place. So Heartland Cowboy is country music from the country with a cowboy spin on it. And some songs I wrote about my horse, songs I wrote about some friends of mine who had land confiscated in New Mexico, who fought the government on it. It's a wide range of things on Heartland Cowboy. And the theme song of America's Heartland is on there. Tell you a little story. This will encourage your listeners because of the theme of this show being about rural lifestyles. When we started America's Heartland as a show a couple of years ago, the idea was to take it to PBS, and hardly any PBS stations wanted to take it. They hated the concept. They said, our listeners are intellectuals in the city who watch public broadcasting shows, and they're not going to want to watch a show about a bunch of people out in rural areas. And we said, well, what is it that makes you think that there's something that's not intelligent about the people that are living in the rural areas? I'll hold up an agriculture major against an English major in a major university, any day, as far as what they know and their ability to communicate and dealing with real life. And I say that as a guy who was an English major. I was a creative writing major at UCLA. But I've applied my studies to, my life in the country. And they said, well, we just don't think it'll work. A few stations took it, and every station that took it had great experience, so that the way PBS works, stations started calling us, and you can start a season with PBS 2 weeks into the September time period, October, November. There were people who were taking the show on in December and starting the season with the show then. After we got through the first season, we had 60% of the ears of public broadcasting and the eyes of public broadcasting. And this year, we're going to be on 80% of the public broadcasting stations across the country. That would not be possible if there were not huge numbers of people who live in the city very, very interested in where their food comes from and in support of the people out in rural areas. Of course, a lot of those commuters on the freeway, they dream of having a place in the country too. So this is something that is very encouraging to me as far as that goes. I really believe that people are starting to get it, that the people that live in the heartland are the backbone of the country, the people that live in the rural areas. So our America's Heartland show is not just about the Midwest. It's the heartland of every state. The heartland of Alaska, which is almost all heartland, by the way.
Yeah.
Heartland of Connecticut, heartland of Maine, just the heartland areas of our country.
Good, thank you. And of course, I think you realize with the kind of company and the kind of products that we make that our folks are those same people. Most of them live in big cities, but dream of that place in the country, or they already have it and are getting out of the city. You didn't go upstairs in our office today, but on my office door is a sign that says "Life's too short to live in Dallas," and to me that would apply for any city.
Well, I had a ranch in Taos, New Mexico for a number of years. It was an adobe house, and believe it or not, 35 minutes away from my front door, I built a log cabin to go visit, to be a retreat for me, because that's what felt good to me as a man, having a log cabin up in the woods. And my wife said, she called it my Jeremiah Johnson house. And I said, honey, you get to decorate this place down here in Taos any way that you want. But up there, I'm in control. And it did. I mean, I had old traps hanging on the side of the wall, the traps that I actually really used. It looked like a hunting lodge. And I ended up, over time, spending more and more time there till finally I moved up there. That's where I moved my family, because I just felt better in that setting. The closest I can get to the wild places in the country, the better. And in Taos, a lot of people would have said, well, you're already living in the country there, but we weren't. We were living down in a town. We had quite a bit of land, but we were close to a town. So I like to be in the wild places. And I was at 10,400 feet up on top of a mountain. And you guys are serving a great need and a great desire that people have to get back to a simpler way of life. I felt as good when I walked in the cabin as I did when I was outside of it, though. On a cold, cold day, after cross-country skiing all day or working outside, I came in and it felt as good to look at the log walls and be in that structure as it did to be outside. And that's how I define a great place to live, a place that feels as good to me as I feel when I'm outdoors, because I'm an outdoorsman.
Yeah. And of course, that's our customer. All of our people have an outdoor life or would aspire to it anyway. And of course, I'm a little bit jealous. Here we are in East Texas at about a 300-foot elevation instead of the Rocky Mountains. But our houses seem to go well just about anywhere. And I was telling you when we were on the way over here that we're sitting here on our family ranch in one of our log houses, and this is my little piece of heaven. I'd rather be here than Hawaii or any place. And my wife doesn't really understand, but I'd rather vacation 12 miles away from the house I live in over at our ranch than anywhere
it's
in the
funny.
world.
We're just alike in that sense.
Yeah.
Everybody say, you're crazy. Why don't you get yourself a condo in Vail or something? And I said, I don't want to go up there and move into what feels like another urban environment with a bunch of people around. My retreat is 35 minutes away, and for a long time I didn't have a phone there. Didn't even have a phone line in. Finally, when cell phones got better, I made the concession of having a cell phone, but couldn't wire up to a computer. Cell phone didn't work that well, and just got up there and I started reading and working on songs, and it was a creative retreat.
Yeah.
And that's my business anyway. That's what I need to be doing most of the time. So,
you mentioned Vail. We've skied Beaver Creek for years and years and years, and back up until '97, we had a mill and office right on I-70, about 30 miles down valley from Beaver Creek, right at the mouth of Glenwood Canyon, and I'd try to sneak away once in a while and go ski a half a day when I was up there working. And then we had just bought a dead standing timber sale out of Glenwood Springs right next to the little Sunlight ski area. And we'll be moving an operation, part of one of our sawmills out of Utah back to Colorado, probably in '07 or '08 to harvest timber there close to Glenwood Springs and process it and probably have a little sales facility.
So you don't have to be jealous of me having a cabin up in the Rockies like I do. I still have that cabin I can go to, but you don't have to be jealous of me. You get to interact with that environment a lot. But I've now moved up to Wisconsin. I looked all over the country to determine where I wanted to have a ranch, to expand my ranching operations, and my wife is from Wisconsin, had family up there, and I was up there visiting her family, and just fell in love with the area. And I decided to make that the main place I hang my hat. I have residences around that I own that I go to, one in Texas and still the cabin in New Mexico. But my favorite place to be is Wisconsin, right in the dead of winter.
Yeah.
It's they have 22,000 miles of snowmobile trails there in Wisconsin. 22,000 miles. You can get on a snowmobile in La Crosse and go to Milwaukee on a snowmobile trail. All the farmers there have opened up their farms for access for snowmobile trails to come to. It's the most remarkable thing you've ever seen. I've never seen people more welcoming and open to the idea of letting people come through their land than they are in that state. And of course, they're outdoors crazy there.
Sure.
People hunt and fish. I mean, they fish through the ice, Sam.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care if it's 40 below. They fish through ice.
Of course, being from East Texas, I don't know what you're talking about, but I've heard about it.
Well, you're going to have to come up and visit me when I build my Satterwhite log home up there.
Thank you.
That's the next part of this discussion, which, after this taped discussion is over with, then we're going to get down to business here and going to make an order.
All right. What kind of snowmobile do you ride?
Very impressed with the products you make.
Thank you.
By the way, very impressed.
Thank you. What kind of snowmobile you ride?
Well, we just use our neighbors' snowmobiles.
That's the best way.
So it's all different brands. I'm not going to endorse any one brand here because I don't actually own a snowmobile.
Yeah.
I'm a cross country skier and a snowshoer, and kind of had a chip on my shoulder about snowmobiles for a while because I love the quiet of just getting out there on my own. But when you live in the North Country like that, you get to where you respect snowmobiles real quick.
Yeah.
And so I probably will buy some snowmobiles coming up here this winter. but we've continued to just cross-country ski and snowshoe on our land. There are downhill ski areas in Wisconsin too, by the way.
Yeah.
They're not anything like the amount of elevation that you ski in the Rockies, but we still get out there too. My whole life has been just based around trying to get to the country as often as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Where we're sitting right now in your home by the lake out here in East Texas is just exactly my kind of place.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't know how good the sound is. I wish we could pick up the sound of rain here, which we've been in mighty short supply. So I'm tickled to have it. We've been out of pasture and had to sell out. We've got a yearling operation here, and we buy stocker, mainly heifers. We buy some steers, but we just put gain on them till they weigh 750, 800 pounds, and send them to the feedlot. And I just, it's in my blood, just like yours.
I think that's the way to go. But when you live with a wife who's a cowgirl and 3 cowgirl daughters, they like mama cows.
Yeah, sure.
They like that calf coming every year. It's just the woman in them. And so we have a cow-calf deal going now too. But there are several people up there who do the steers, and I think that's a really good outfit. If it was up to me, that's probably the way I would run things all year round. But
we've been able to make money with it most of the time, which you can't always plan on.
A steer operation makes money.
Calf.
A cow-calf is a lot more challenge.
Yeah. But I tell you, I sure miss seeing baby calves every spring. I miss that part of it, and that's awfully gratifying when you have a cow-calf operation like that.
Well, I wanted to just tell you that I do have a connection here with East Texas. The Murphys came into East Texas in 1858.
Wow! What into what county? Do you know?
Yes, I do. Whatever county Tyler is in.
Smith County, right over here close in, yeah.
And they came in here from North Carolina, and they started a business called Murphey the Jeweler.
Right.
And that is Murphey, and you can still see Murphey the Jeweler, and there's even a historical marker. It's the longest family-owned business in the history of the state of Texas.
Wow.
My cousins, Rick Murphy and Shannon Murphy, still run Murphey the Jeweler in Tyler, Texas.
Well,
and it's still going. And so I came down here from the Fort Worth, Dallas area where I grew up many times. And then my grandfather had a ranch out here in Fairfield, Texas, just a little bit
right
north of here.
Pretty country too.
And I guess it'd be south of here.
Yeah, it's southwest of here.
Southwest of here.
Yeah.
I was in Crockett yesterday looking at the map, and it was north of Crockett, and I just
yeah.
But anyway, I spent my boyhood on ranches. Although I grew up in the city, I spent my boyhood on my family ranches. My dad sent me and my brother off to Granddaddy's ranch for the summer. He realized we'd have a better boyhood if we grew up in that. It was a big sacrifice for my dad because he had to work, and he knew he could only see his boys on weekends if he did that.
Yeah.
And we were very close. He played ball with us. He did everything with us, but he wanted to let us have that summertime experience. That's where I come by my love of cowboying and ranching, is from my grandfather's East Texas ranch and my other grandfather's Arkansas ranch.
Yeah.
We were Piney Woods ranchers.
Yeah. Yeah. Where was the place
spent
in
more
Arkansas?
time clearing pastures than we did anything else.
Right. Where in Arkansas were
Y City, the Y City area, Y City, Mena.
Right. Right. Well, my story is a little bit similar. I was raised really close to the place, and my daddy worked me to death, I thought, 6 days a week. And I didn't have any free time, which I didn't appreciate at the time, but he did me an awful big favor by teaching me to work and make me love the place. And I think he had some of the same values that you do Michael. We're always healing up ditches, and Daddy believed in stewardship, and you leave anything better than you found it, and that was his lifelong motto.
Yeah, that generation. Hopefully, passed that on to some of us, but that was their main thing: was don't ever sell this ranch. When I'm gone, keep it going, even if you get a hired man to run it and you move someplace else. Don't sell the family ranch. That was always the way it was.
Just a few minutes ago, you and I were talking, and you talked about was it your father that gave money for your son, left money for your son?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of made me grin. You're talking about not trying to control things from the grave, and you didn't get involved because your dad wanted your son to have it. Well, I had a little ulterior motive, and several years ago, we built a family cemetery here on the ranch. And I was hoping that after I die, that maybe my kids and grandkids, my nephew's kids, would think twice before selling a place if kinfolks are buried here.
Right.
So, we want to try to hold this place together and keep it in the family a long time. We've been part of the place here. My family also moved from the south. They moved to North Carolina, then Georgia, then Texas, and they moved to Texas in the 1850s also, which there was a huge migration across the South just prior to and during and after the war between the states. But some of my folks settled on part of this land in 1879, and I'm mighty proud of that.
Yeah, when you've got that kind of heritage and history in an area, you just always come back. At least that's the way I am. When I'm back in this country, it sparks a lot of boyhood memories, and I feel very strongly. So I am in the process of acquiring some land here in East Texas again.
Good.
I've been looking in the last few days. One of the reasons I stuck around here after I played my concert at the Music City, Texas Theater in Linden was to, and made a live album there, was to look around at some land. So I stuck around a few days.
Right.
And I found some interesting stuff. So I want to have a base out here again. I want to feel like, well, of course, the family is still here in terms of the Murphys being here.
Yeah.
But the Murphy side of the family were never ranchers. It was my mom's side of the family who were the ranchers out here.
Yeah. And what was her maiden name?
Well, she was her mother was Waterman, and she was Corbett. Her dad's name was Corbett.
Okay.
But the Watermans, go way back in Texas and go way back actually in this country. I'm proud of my heritage in that both of my great grandfathers going way back actually fought at Valley Forge.
Wow.
They must have known each other.
Wow.
Because they were both in Washington's army. Archibald DeBow Murphy, General Murphy was a general under Washington.
You ought to be mighty proud of that.
And then Waterman was a colonel under Washington, and he's the only marked grave at Valley Forge, is John Waterman's grave. And they started the First Baptist Church in this country. As a matter of fact, it was the first Baptist church in history. Is at the top of a hill in Providence, Rhode Island. Wow. So I'm a red, white, and blue-blooded American, I got red, white, and blue running through my veins, and I have people that fought in the Revolution in my family, people who were here in the colonies and came in and fought in the Revolution in Texas and then moved their families here. You have to... They came in here and were rabble-rousers and pretty much lived on the ground, and then they moved their families here in 1858. But they were in here. Herndon Harrelson was in here in the 1830s and 40s, fought the Battle of San Jacinto. Yeah. For some reason, we're always out there fighting for some kind of freedom.
Well, you got some mighty deep roots.
It runs in my blood. So, I've continued that philosophy of life.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you need to come spend the 4th of July with us here sometime. We have a heck of a party and
So
celebration.
So I hear. Well, I'm looking forward to the Cowboy Christmas that we're putting on together.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I need to get a hold of your Murphey the jeweler cousins and get them to sell some Cowboy Christmas tickets over at Tyler. This is second year, of course, that we've had you, and you put on a absolutely stunning performance last December. We're going to do it again this year, December the 23rd, and we're looking forward to packing the house this time. You excited an awful lot of folks last year.
Well, Cowboy Christmas is a 100% dyed-in-the-wool Texas event. You know, the Texas Cowboys Christmas Ball started in 1886, and a song was written by a young fellow who happened to observe that event, who happened to be from New York. He was visiting his uncle who had a big ranch out in Anson, Texas, and he saw this Cowboy Christmas Ball. He wrote a song about it, published. It was actually a poem first. He published it back east, and then in a book that was published in London, and the world became familiar through his writing, through his poem and his song and his publicity with the Cowboy Christmas Ball. And they kept the tradition going now ever since then. And we play every year at the Cowboy Christmas Ball in Anson. And about 20 years ago, I decided to base an entire production of a show on their tradition of Cowboy Christmas. And with all the things that implies or entails. And people are always asking me, what does cowboy have to do with Christmas? I tell them just as much as a nutcracker has to do with Christmas.
There you go.
So, the truth is, the first news of the birth of the Savior that came to the earth was given to grazing men who were out grazing animals out on the open plains. And the Lord chose them to get the first news, not the leaders or the spiritual men in town or the clerics or the equivalent of the Lions Club of 2,000 years ago didn't get the first news. It was these simple men. And there's a little symbolism in there because of Jesus' constant association with shepherding and being a shepherd. We talk about him as a carpenter, but more of his parables in the Bible are about being a shepherd or a farmer working in a vineyard than there are about carpentry. There's very little in there about building anything. There's a few, but mostly it's about being close to the land. So I think that there's no question that Jesus must have spent a tremendous amount of time working the land and doing something associated with herding animals. It says in the Bible they were shepherds. We think of shepherds as people, watching sheep. But actually a shepherd in those days was in charge of cattle, goats, a lot of other grazing animals. Right. So they were, in effect, the cowboys of the day. Yeah. So it goes all the way back to the original story that the people out under the stars watching grazing animals were the purest hearts to receive the message and spread it. God chose a simple, working group of people who were not materialistic to get the first news because he knew they wouldn't exaggerate the tale or change it or try to twist it around for their own political motives. They didn't have any agenda like that. And I find that to be a really important part. And then you have this business of Jesus being born in a stable, in a barn, basically. And when you think about it, God could have chosen any place to have the Savior of the world born. Didn't choose a palace. Why? A lowly stable, so that all men could buy into the message that it wasn't just for the what we would say out here in this part of the country, the preachers. It wasn't just for the self-righteous people that ran the churches of the day. It was for everybody. And a very, very common kind of a message, something that everybody could understand. So Cowboy Christmas plays into that. You know, I come out and talk about being out on the range at Christmas time and being outdoors and being in a simple lifestyle or experiencing that at that time of year is closer to the original story than all the fancy big choir music and everything else that we do and all the decorations that we put up and all the commercialism of Christmas. The true story of Christmas is about looking at the peak of a mountain that's snow-capped and realizing that God is there. You know, you look up at the stars and you realize God can talk to you. And that's what Cowboy Christmas is about. And in Anson, it was about, in the 1880s, it was about a frontier. It was a frontier dance. So it was a family dance that they did to celebrate Christmas. There's no drinking and no smoking, and there's never been drinking or smoking allowed at that dance since 1886. And today, we go and play there, and you see grandparents dancing with their grandchildren, great-grandfathers dancing with their grandchildren. And it's a wonderful tradition. Takes music and dancing out of that honky-tonk kind of image that we all associate with dancing, and back to a simpler time when it was like Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah.
And that's the spirit of our Cowboy Christmas production. One of our props on stage is a log cabin.
Right, and I appreciate that.
People have a warm feeling about seeing a log cabin, and through the window of this cabin, you can see things going on. We do rear screen projection of some of the dancing that happens in Anson and other scenes in the window. At times you feel like you're inside the cabin looking out, and other times you feel like you're outside looking in.
Right.
The cabin. So that's why that's there. And we continue to try to add little touches that make people feel warm about it.
Well, Michael,
but now we like the Anson Ball, your event you're putting on here, which will be second of what we hope will be many more annuals. Your event is a charity event, and I'm going to interview you here for a minute and let you tell me about some of the charities that you serve here and why you do.
Okay. Well, before I answer that, let me just tell you, for folks that haven't experienced Cowboy Christmas, it's certainly not just entertainment, although it is first class entertainment, but it's inspirational, and it is Christ filled, and I absolutely loved it, and anybody that doesn't see you at Cowboy Christmas they're missing a real blessing. Now,
thank you.
As far as the charities that we benefit, any business gets hit up every day of the year by worthy causes.
I'm very familiar with it. I could probably play benefits 365 days a year if I could.
Right. But we just decided we wanted to take a little different tack and decide to try Cowboy Christmas as a fundraiser for some of my favorite charities last year. And every nickel of profit plus some more will go to three charities, the same three we benefited last year, which are Azaway Incorporated, which is Azaway Boys Ranch over in Smith County, just out of Tyler, Heartlight Ministries at Hallsville, Texas, and
great bunch of people over there, by the way.
And then we're benefiting a third charity, Wind Ridge Therapeutic Equestrian Center, right here at Diana, Texas, just about 5 miles from where we are today. But those are three of my favorites, and they're all about children, and they're all about children with great needs. At Azaway, they take a lot of kids. They take in a tremendous number of kids that have been thrown away, abused in any way you can imagine.
They're not kids who are necessarily in trouble or what we used to call juvenile delinquents.
They
now say at risk.
Now,
that way.
A lot of them are headed that way because they have been kicked around so bad. You know, you can make a good dog into a vicious animal if you mistreat it bad enough. And these kids have had an awful lot of that. Over at Heartlight, they take in kids, teenagers that have got problems. Some of them may be on drugs or have other problems, and they rehabilitate them. And then over at Windridge, it's a wonderful charity that uses horses to help physically and spiritually rehabilitate kids with all types of problems. And you know, I can't hardly go to any of these three charities without getting all choked up because of the importance of what they're doing. And you know, you are our vehicle to try to help raise some money and make it fun. And we're hitting up companies primarily to purchase tickets for Cowboy Christmas, then to give to their employees, their customers, whomever. We're not asking for donations. We're merely wanting to give them an opportunity to come see you and enjoy what you're doing.
Well, I feel it's key today for business people to get involved in the society that surrounds them and do something to make sure that the social structure is sound, or else it's not a very good environment to do business in. So you can look at it from a selfish point of view, or you can look at it from any point of view you want. It makes sense to do it.
Yeah. Well,
from any standpoint you want, even if a business says, you know, we just want to make sure we don't have a lot of crime in our community or whatever, so we have a better business community. That's a good reason to do it too.
Yeah.
And I believe in charity work that does what you're talking about. It puts people back into society with some kind of ability to be able to survive and make it. It's not a welfare kind of a situation where people get used to, you know, being on a dole and a handout, and you know, the world's going to fix their problems for them. And so they end up having generation after generation of people that
Right.
live that way, you know.
Right.
And I'm very impressed with Heartlight because they, particularly in all of these, but I've had more experience with Heartlight because they take people who are at risk to fail in life and they make successes out of them. They give them the tools that they need because their parents didn't spend time with them. Their parents even discouraged them about life or
Right.
made them feel negative about life. And this
Right.
generation is certainly failing to a greater degree than any other generation in history to spend time with its parents.
Yeah, you're right.
And parents to spend time with them. It's got to go both ways.
Yeah. I'm mighty fortunate, Michael. I've got 2 out of our 3 kids are working for our company, and that's very gratifying to me. But our family and our company have been blessed beyond belief, and I feel real strongly that if you don't give, you don't deserve to get. And that's not giving in anticipation of a return, but that's just fact that you better give back some of your blessing.
Well, I believe in entertainment that draws people into that way of thinking because so much entertainment draws people away from that way of thinking. There's so much entertainment out there that draws kids away from their family, alienates them from their brothers and sisters and their parents and their grandparents and their cousins, alienates them from good people in the community, and, you know, encourages them to have a rebel stance and to be cool by being an outlaw. And, you know, that's, if I may, you know, be so bold as to say so, that's just the devil's very subtle means of drawing people to the dark side, you know, by making it seem to be cool. You know, there's nothing wrong with rebellion if you're rebelling against something that's oppressive or horrible, but rebellion just for rebellion's sake, is based on the original rebellion, which was
Right.
Satan being, in the Milton story, Satan is jealous of God, and that basically comes from the Old Testament. Jealousy is the most powerful destructive force in the universe, I believe.
Right.
And people just get drawn into this dark side through jealousy and envy of other people and what they have. So you get the rock star who's cool, and the kids start to envy all the cool things the rock star gets to do. So they get to, first of all, they adopt the rock star's image, and then the next thing you know, they're doing the things that they do. The next thing you know, they're alienated from their families. Entertainment is doing a horrible job on that level. We're not inspiring kids to do the right things. We're encouraging them to the wrong, and it's easier to make money by exploiting them at the negative side. There's so many things you can sell them,
Right. That's true.
when you
That's
do it,
true.
And I've been around entertainment all my life, and I just feel like the entertainment business is failing society right now.
Right. Do we need to get wrapped up, Danny?
Yes.
Do you,
Well, I've been waiting for the phone to ring. Are we here until they call?
Well, I turned my phone off.
But he
No.
gave them the landline because there's no cell out here.
yeah. All right. We can just keep rolling if that's okay.
That's fine with me.
Okay. What do we need to go into, Danny?
Well, we've got a lot of good stuff here today.
Yeah.
You can use this on more than one show too. You're welcome to, cut it up or edit it down any way you want.
Okay. Go back just a minute, Michael.
We can talk about my hunting show. I'm excited about my hunting show.
Well,
It's another group of people who like log cabins.
Yeah, sure are. And I tell you what, it's funny how dead our office is on the opening day of any hunting season. That
Yeah.
tells you something right there.
Might as well just give them that holiday off, or they're going to get sick
Yep.
anyway.
Yeah. Are you a big hunter yourself?
I love hunting. I grew up hunting. My grandfather was from Kentucky. He was a mountain man from Harlan, Kentucky, and even when I was a kid on his ranch, he hunted for food. Of course, they had game laws that came in that said a 12-year-old could go out and hunt anything any time of the year.
Yeah.
So my grandfather went out with me and taught me how to shoot at a very early age. And we ate. He made a point to eat whatever I shot. And he made me feel like I was making a contribution to the family that way. So I grew up, with a love of hunting, and I think hunting has done so much to help wildlife habitat, to help the management of wildlife, and to increase wildlife. The exact opposite of what most people in the public think about hunting. They think we're blowing all these animals away and there's not going to be anything left. The truth is, for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years, human beings have hunted, and that is the way we interact with the wildlife population, and it builds up the wildlife population if you do proper management. Nobody wants to take so many animals that there's nothing left, and at various times there are even epidemics of deer and elk, and there's so many animals that if they get the disease, it wipes the whole population out. So hunting's a very important part of this feeling I have for the outdoors. I like bird hunting, big game hunting, any kind of hunting.
Yeah. Well, I've got 4 good bird dogs across the road in the kennel right now. Well, of course, now if you've had Kentucky family and spent much time when you were young hunting, then you've eaten a lot of fried squirrel, I guess.
I've had squirrel. I've eaten them, even armadillo. I mean,
Well, now I've eaten coon. I haven't tried armadillo. We got plenty here.
My grandfather, I never believe I ever saw a trophy on his wall. And I'm not condemning the trophy thing. If you get an incredible animal, I think you have every right to put a trophy up there. But he was not a guy to display his trophies. Hunting for him was about food. and whatever useful parts of the animal there may be, is almost like an Indian in his philosophy,
Yeah.
the way he looked at it. On our television show that we have that I host now, Best of the West, we try to bring in some aspects of that. When we did the buffalo hunt in Wyoming back in August, Wyoming has a buffalo season now. After we shot the buffalo, we cooked the buffalo that night. We brought some Indians in. We cooked the buffalo and served it to the local people the next day. Brought in all the local ranchers and people. And, of course, most meat is better when it's been cured and aged for a while, particularly buffalo is. But we brought in a guy who really knew what he was doing on the roasting, and it was great. It really
Was
tasted
this
great.
just pit cooked?
Yeah, it was Blackfeet Indians who came in and cooked it. And then they did a special program on the traditional way that they hunted and the uses of the buffalo that they had. And I think that's what's going to make the Best of the West hunting show different than other shows, and that we're bringing in all these cultural and even artistic aspects of hunting and historical stuff, about great hunters like Daniel Boone. And we don't call it Boone and Crockett records for nothing. These
Right.
guys were incredible hunters who really understood the woods, and it's where we get an awful lot of our knowledge about the land and the woods is from people who have been out there hunting on it. Wildlife biologists have been stealing ideas from hunters for years about their behavior. That's where they go to do their research. So I'm really excited about the show. We do a little bit of music at the end of every show. And right now we're on the men's channel and the sportsman's channel.
Okay.
We may expand to some other channels in the future. Right now, that's where you can find the Best of the West. And we are on the internet at thebestofthewest.net. You have to put that "the" on there. THE, Best of the West.
All right. And, your Heartland theme song, you don't also have that on your hunting show, do you?
I have sung it on the show. It is
Oh,
not. It is not the theme song of the hunting show. I'm just in the process of recording, as a matter of fact, a theme song for the show. So we haven't aired our first segment yet. That happens in December. So if you're hearing this in December, you may have already experienced the show being on. But at the time that we're taping this, we're sitting here in October. I'm still working on the recording of it.
Well, I don't want to sound like a critic, Michael, but I don't think you could do any better than that Heartland theme.
Thank
Oh,
you.
that's a beautiful song.
Thank you.
Let me ask you about one of your songs real quick, if you don't mind. And I think it was on Cowboy Songs 2 or 3 maybe, but it was a rendition of Streets of Laredo that goes into the Irish,
Right.
has an Irish verse to it.
Mhm.
And that is, I have listened to that time and time again about Beau Fail O'Brady.
It was bold Phelim Brady, the Bard of Amar.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I've been hard of hearing for years, and I've been singing the wrong words to that.
Who could know when you hear bold Phelim Brady, the Bard of Amar? Anybody could hear that. It's nothing to do with your hearing. Phelim Brady was a minstrel about 300 years ago who was very famous, and in those days, minstrels who played an instrument were a lot of times also soldiers and warriors. So he was a national hero, and he wrote a lot of ballads about the great feats of the Irish soldiers and fighters. And there's a cowboy music connection here. Tremendous numbers of Irish people came into Texas from about 1800 to 1900. Just huge. The largest number of surnames, ethnic surnames in Texas, are Irish or Scottish.
Right.
Over 1 million Irish surnames. Over 1 million people in Texas have direct connections, and there are millions of people who have Irish surnames here. But over 1 million people have direct connections to Ireland, just like I do in my family. So this Irish music came in during the era that cowboy stuff was starting to happen, drovers going up the trail, stuff. So a lot of Irish people became cowboys, and the music that they wrote to express themselves about their experiences out on the trail, they based on their old country melodies from Ireland or Scotland. And that's why Streets of Laredo, Red River Valley, When the Work's All Done This Fall, all these great old cowboy songs have Irish melodies because Irishmen were just changing the words to their songs that they had known for generations.
Well, and that's the biggest question I want to ask about that. But that particular song, you're saying that was the original Irish melody that turned into Streets of Laredo.
That's right. Yeah.
I'll be.
It was all this to the tale of the old Irish harper, and scorn not the strains of his old withered hands. Remember those fingers that once could move sharper. Raise up the strains of his dear native land. Beat the drum slowly and play the fife lowly. Play the dead march as you carry me along. Take me to the Green Valley. Lay the side o'er me. I'm bold Phelim Brady. I'm the bard of Armagh. Well, that was changed very, very easily to as I walked out on the streets of Laredo, and became a classic cowboy song. And there are many other cases of that happening. So, as a Murphy, I am uniquely genetically programmed to play cowboy music because it is the basis of a lot of cowboy music.
Why don't you do an album of historical songs like that and tell some of these stories about how melodies came from the old country?
Well, when all my cowboy albums, I've taken a very Irish approach to the way we played the music, except for the songs that are more based on Mexican vaquero kind of music. That was the other big influence on cowboy music was, the Latino people from Mexico and South America and Spain, the way they sang their music. So it had those two strains in there. It's really... Cowboy music is a combination of Irish music and Mexican music, basically, when you get right down to it.
Yeah.
So I've always taken that approach on all my albums, but I have thought about making an album that just deals with the pure Celtic versions of all this stuff, and I've thought about that several times. A good suggestion. I'm going to take you up on it one of these days.
Okay. Now I want to ask you to take me up on another suggestion. I know that you...
I'm also going to make an Irish album someday, just Irish music, not even anything to do with cowboy.
That'd be beautiful.
Make an album of just Irish music, some of my favorite Irish songs.
That'd be beautiful. From what you said this afternoon, I know that you are a patriot.
Yes, sir.
And why don't you do us an album of strictly patriotic music? I'm a collector of these, and I'm always looking for more. And, of course, I'm one of your biggest fans, and I'd give anything to hear Michael Martin Murphey sing God Bless America and all the others.
Well, on my new album, there is a song called My Country Under God, and it's performed with a full symphony orchestra. And My Country Under God is the first kind of outright just patriotic song. Patriotism to me is tied in with my belief in God. And I'm excited about living in a nation that founded itself under God. And one of my pet peeves in the last few years that angers me whenever I think about it is the efforts that people are making to try to hide that or remove it or take it away. They're going to have to work hard because it's on every public building. It's on the dollar bill. It's in the Constitution. It's in the Declaration of Independence. These men were wise enough to realize that they could not have done what they did without the providence of God. And Washington even kneeled in front of a monument of the Ten Commandments on the day he was inaugurated president in the little church where he went. The National Cathedral at the time was a little Anglican church, Episcopal church in New York, and after he made his inaugural speech, he went and knelt and prayed in front of a monument to the Ten Commandments. We just had a judge fired from being the Supreme Court Justice of Alabama for having a monument to the Ten Commandments in the rotunda of his courthouse. And of course, he's got an ongoing fight that was Justice Roy Moore. I
Right.
met Roy Moore at the South Dakota Stock Growers Association convention a few years ago. They brought him in to make a speech. They're a great outfit up there in South Dakota, by the way. They got it figured out. They know what the real deal is. So they brought in Justice Moore, and Justice Moore spoke before I played a concert, and I got to know him. And I got really inspired to really research the way he has all of the connections with God in our country, and all of the ins and outs of that. And some of the details are incredible. You know, they said under God, but they also, Jefferson insisted that it not be Christianity. He said, we want a belief in the Creator, but we want freedom of religion in this country. So Jews are welcome, people are welcome to believe, and they're also welcome to not believe anything. But our Constitution and our moral law is founded under God.
Right.
And we as Christians, though, cannot cram that down other people who are non-Christians' throat. We're just supposed to witness. It's a fascinating thing that they went through. The state of Massachusetts, when it first became a state, tried to pass a law that said you had to be a Christian to be in the legislature. And there's a famous letter from George Washington written to the legislature of Massachusetts, and he said, I recommend that you don't do that. You know, pray to God, recognize God, pray to make Christian prayers in your legislature. That's just fine. He said, but don't require that you have to believe in God or be a Christian to be a part of the legislature here. Because we want freedom of religion. They had enough of people trying to cram their version of religion down their throats in Europe, and they fought and they spilled their blood for the right to be able to believe or not believe. They were very enlightened men that way, and that's why they called them the Department of the Enlightenment. So it's a really deep subject with a lot of legal precedents, and I'm very, very patriotic about the idea of a nation founded under God. That's the kind of nation I want to be a part of. And we're not the only one. So my song doesn't mention America or Christianity in it. It just says, my country under God. Now, I am a Christian, and I believe that that is the way to go. And that's the way to really have a great society, is to found it on Christian principles. But I also realize that those Christian principles come from a Judaic tradition, and I honor those laws, even as I believe those laws do not determine my salvation. I believe that those laws are still phenomenal laws. I live pretty much by the Jewish dietary laws. I've come to the conclusion that the Jewish dietary laws are great recommendations for living. I don't believe it's going to save me one way or the other, but nutritionists of our time have started to study those biblical recommendations for what you should eat and how you should eat, and they've come up with a conclusion that it's a pretty darn good way to go.
Yeah.
And so all of that is bound up in my song, and it is a very patriotic song. One of the lines says, I stand on land that's sacred ground. I'll not surrender or stand down. My country knows no king or crown. My country is under God. In other words, our forefathers founded this nation on the idea we don't serve a king. We don't serve somebody who inherited a right to rule us. We elect our leaders who serve under God. God is our king. God's our ruler. God's moral law, by way of the Old Testament, is what we found all of our laws on. And that's why there's a picture of Moses and the Ten Commandments on the Supreme Court building in Washington, D.C. And if these polecats who are trying to get rid of all that succeed, they're going to have to tear down the Supreme Court building.
Well, Michael, don't
I don't
you
think anybody's going to let that happen. I'm not going to let it happen. I don't know about you, Sam.
don't you think if the ACLU or others would prevail, that there would be the biggest rebellion this country has seen since the revolution of the 1770s and 80s?
The revolution was over our right to not serve under a king or worship God through a king. You know, a sovereign king in Europe was the representative of God in his kingdom. The whole revolution was over our right to not have that. So, yes, it would completely split our country apart, and it would cause another revolution. There would be people who would say, I am not going to serve that. I want to remind people, as Justice Moore reminded me, that when our military soldiers in all branches of the military, when they're sworn in, they do not swear to defend the land or our borders. That's not what they swear. They swear to defend the Constitution. Right. Those principles, wherever constituted, wherever our borders may expand or shrink, within those borders, wherever the Constitution is under effect, that's what they are fighting to defend. And that Constitution is based on the idea of a creator and moral law and the individual rights that are in it, that are descended down from God, not from some king or some lawyer or some legislator. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal under God, right?
That's right.
And so that's what we're here to defend. So to me, patriotism is defending the Constitution. You know, wherever those principles are so constituted. And I will defend a Constitution of Ireland or Australia or England if that Constitution contains those same principles.
Right.
Right. That's why we have allies. Any allies that share our same constituted beliefs are people that we will co-defend, because we're defending a set of values. We're not defending, an island or a piece of ground here. We're defending a set of values. That's what I find exciting. Right. That's true patriotism.
Well, if you'll read Ezekiel, it'll make you tremble to think of what would happen to us as a country if we don't live under God and do not stay on the side of the nation of Israel. All right, we had better get wrapped up here.
We're gonna start a Sam Satterwhite version of Focus on the Family here. We keep this up. You start.
Wrap this up by thanking him for being here, and let's have a good conclusion.
Good. Michael Martin Murphey, I can't thank you enough for honoring us with your presence for our first Satterwhite Log Home podcast, and we sure look forward to having you here again December the 23rd for Cowboy Christmas, and you're going to warm a lot of hearts for Christmas.
Well, Sam, all I can say is the honor is all mine to be on your first podcast. I think you're an incredible guy. I think you're a great American. I think you're living and breathing the values of our country every day. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Neither one of us needs to put ourselves on a pedestal. We serve the public. And you're like me. You just got into a business that is your passion. You'd probably be living in a log cabin if you didn't have a log cabin business, and I'd be picking that guitar on a front porch.
Well,
if I wasn't in the music business. And I think if you can get into something that's your passion, you're just always happier, and you're happy to share it with other people. And you've used your company for great things for God and for great things for our country and our society. And I'm more than honored to be here.
Thank you.
You're a gentleman and a scholar. And I appreciate it.
Well, both of us are mighty fortunate to get up in the morning and can't wait to do what we love to do. And that's my job, and I know it is yours.
That's right.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Michael Martin Murphey. Join me in Longview on Saturday, December 23rd for our Cowboy Christmas. Songs, stories, and poetry from Texas and the great American West.
Let's do that one more time, if you don't mind.
Okay. Hi, this is Michael Martin Murphey. Join me in Longview on Saturday, December 23rd for a Cowboy Christmas. Songs, stories, and poetry from Texas and the Great American West.